Okay, I think we're here. I think we're good. If I get a thumbs up, make sure everything's working the way it should. Just to make sure here. Anybody? Anybody? Hello? Pretty quiet there in the chat. I think we're on. I think I have audio. Dune says hi. Dune, everybody else, audio good? Everything good? Stream Elements is here. Steven says yellow. Yes, on. Perfect. All right. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Rack, how we doing? 1974. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, happy Father's Day to everybody out there. It's a dad, which is tomorrow. Doing the stream today. I might do one tomorrow. I actually would like to. I don't know if anybody will show up to it because obviously Father's Day is for family and things like that. But I did miss Mother's Day, so if there's any moms on here, I'd like to wish them also a happy Mother's Day from last month. And anybody with any birthdays or anything like that, you know what? Happy birthday, those types of things in the next couple weeks or so. But with all that being said, I want to say hello to a few people. Who do we have here right now? We have Jose Fiera. How we doing, Jose? You may be the first thumbs up. I was the first comment. We'll call it a draw. We have Dune. Dune's here. Hello, how we doing? Andrew. Andrew, how are we doing here, Andrew? Let's see. I'm going to go through here real quick, and I'll go back to some comments, stuff like that. Talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. It's not going to be a really long one, but it should be pretty fun. Rack. Kylid, let's see here. Woody's here. Nuno's here. No. So we got at least Portugal, United States, and I believe Canada. Let me know where you're from. I'm interested. I like to know where everybody's from. I find it fun. I think this is a very good hobby for everybody to kind of get together, and it's a worldwide type of thing, right? We all have fun. So a little bit what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna go over Texas, yeah. I'm gonna go over what Woody sent me a kit of the other day and some modifications I made of that. I built that during the last live stream. There were a couple of things I wanted to tweak, and I did tweak them. It was really inexpensive. I think I spent another $5 on it, maybe. I want to talk about some LED lighting, some ideas I got for the ultimate build. I have some video questions, so I'm gonna get into those video questions here. There's 3 of them from one particular person that I want to bring in, and I want to open up. This is an open invitation that if you do have a question that you'd like to propose in video, go ahead and shoot that to me in email. You can find my email address in the YouTube channel information. It is also, just to spell it out for you right now, you can send it to Kerm, K-E-R-M, @builditbasement.com. You can send me a link to a Google Drive video. You can send me a really small video that fits in an email. You can send me a link to a Vimeo or a YouTube or wherever you want to get a video from. Or if you have questions and you can't figure out how to get it to me, let me know and we'll figure something out, because this interaction is kind of what it's about, and community is about what it's about. So what else are we talking about today? I have that, I have this, I have the other thing. Working on a bunch of stuff. I got a little bit of a change of heart on a couple different things and some more information about another. So let's jump into it and kind of see what we have here for people and what they're looking for. Let's see here. Stalking you, finding every stream you attend. So looks like Andrew is stalking Jose, which is fine. Don't tell Jose, but we've all been stalking him. He should keep his windows closed. That's all I got to say. Let's see here. Let's see, Woody's talking a little bit of Spanish here, or Portuguese, I don't know. But I guess I'm not gonna say I'm intelligent, but I'm smart enough to figure out that onde está o BIB? I am here. So yeah, and I've never learned or know Spanish or Portuguese, which you guys know Portuguese is actually kind of a collaboration between Spanish and Slavic language. I just found this out the other day. I pick up on random tidbits like that. And maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's kind of some research I did that I saw. Let's see, Andrew, his review of the CNC tap was brought me here. Awesome, great, I appreciate that. No one else seems to have a complete test result of its use yet. So I will talk about that real quick since it's in there, and I'll work my way down. But Andrew, I appreciate you coming in today. These streams, just so you know, since it's the first time you've been here, are really impromptu. They're basically user-driven, viewer-driven type streams. I don't usually have a lot that I have. I don't work off of scripts. Just the same way when I make my videos, I don't work off of scripts, even though somebody's recently suggested I do. And maybe I'll start having some videos that are more scripted. But I have a theory on scripts, and usually when things don't go wrong in videos, it's either because it's scripted and edited or they're just perfect. But I try not to be perfect. I try not to be scripted. I kind of go at it from the angle I think most people would. And if there's issues and errors that happen during those videos, then so be it. It's probably something somebody else is going to run into. About the CNC tap videos and the testing on that, I actually had one comment where somebody said I'd put the minimum where the maximum was in that series on my spreadsheet. I looked back, it was true, but my standard deviations were all correct, and that's really what mattered on that. I am still impressed with the CNC tap. I have had no issues with it. I've been playing around with a lot more, playing with some macros and things like that. I think out of all the parts that you could buy that are manufactured for this, this maker printer, we'll call it, the Voron, I think that's probably one of the best ones to buy. And simple reason being is because the parts are relatively small and thin, and I think metal is a much better material to use for those, really thin parts that you need on the tap. I'm sure that design will get or continue to get refined and whatnot from the Voron team. They've already done some revisions that are beyond what I had for my tap. And my tap, just to kind of point it out, just to show it off a little bit here, my tap is still in perfect condition. I mean, it works just fine. It's a nice piece of kit, as you would. Nothing wrong with it, but I do like the CNC version. So yeah, see here, dinner time back. Jose, no way, Jose, you can't go to dinner. It's no fair. Well, when you get back, you have to tell us what it was and how good it was. All right, so let's see here, and I'm back. Wifey had to make a phone call. I don't know how. I don't eat a milkshake or something for dinner. Let's see here. Mine is in the block. R8 is working great right now. Woody's using the R8 revision 8 of the Voron tap, which is kind of what we were just talking about those revisions. I suspect there'll be more revisions that go on. Woody, if you have any notes about the differences between prior revisions and the one you're using, I think there's a stiffening screw in a couple different places on that and some things like that. More interested in hearing about it. Let's see here. Dune, hello. Let's see here. Yellow did a bunch of happy Father's Day. Yes, hello everyone. Oi, Nuno. Hey, Kermit. Hey, Bill Bears. First time here, Andrew. Yep, saw you at Texas. Andrew's from Texas. It's cool. I got people from Texas. I got people from the Carolinas. I've got people from Florida that usually stop by. I'm in the Northeast. That's why I'm still wearing this dang sweatshirt. I'm actually in Maine, so you can't go any further northeast than I am. Currently today, it's 57 degrees and raining, and come Wednesday, it's going to be 89 degrees and 95% humidity. So that's Maine in the summertime. Let's see here. The best. Let's see, UK. Dune's in the UK. Awesome. Hi all. Indiana, USA. Sweden. Oh, how are we doing in Sweden? We've got a couple of people out there in Sweden. One person from Norway, a couple people from Germany. It's a worldwide audience, right? This is awesome, this YouTube thing. And building friendships throughout the world, I think, is what keeps us all sane and learning about each other's cultures to some extent, and understanding we're all human. We all want to get along, really. As the world changes, the globe is now one place. It's not multiple places across the globe. We're all human. We're all on it. It'd be nice if we all spoke the exact same language, but English seems to be the closest to that. Lucky for me, it is my born language. But I appreciate everybody that's here that natively do not speak English. That's awesome. Change of hearts. Hope the change in heart in CNC tap just ordered. No change in heart in the CNC tap. I had change in heart in some other things I'll talk about in a minute. One day I learned how to program ESP, USB camera, and printer housing. ESP32s, they're relatively easy. You just use the programmer. There's a programmer for ESP32. You can actually do, I think there's a Chrome plugin you can use to program ESP32. There's a lot of development on ESP32s. And you could definitely do the camera with it. I'm going to be using mine. I haven't put it in yet for the I/O outputs on it, and basically for the Wi-Fi. So basically, it's going to utilize the I/O outputs from the MCU, the controller board, to let it know when certain things are happening. happening on my printer so I can make magical things happen throughout the house. You know, lights turn on and off, maybe the A word, that's the echo things around my house, tell me when my prints are done or tell me if there's an issue. That's all stuff that's happening around. Updated Crow's Nest. Now I've lost my webcam, I'm sure. Interesting. Give me more information. Minnesota, Mark Davis. Hey, how we doing? Oh, Mark Davis, you remind me. I want to thank the people down below real quick down here. Going across the screen right now. Right here, get the Poor Boy Channel, Golden Jaguars over there. Left, right. Also, the DeWitt 3D Canada. Let's see here, the First Layer. Those are all great channels you guys should check out if you like this type of content, where people that do it on the side, it's not our primary form of making a living, so we have fun with it. And then we got some patrons, some people that throw in a little into the hat every once in a while down below. And this guy over here is the one that just reminded me to say it. Mark Davis, thank you. Brad, SK3D, and Joe is out there. So this stuff goes down along the bottom just as a thank you for all those people. And if you do something for me, I appreciate it greatly. And if you don't want to get recognized, let me know, and I won't put you down there. And if you do, and you ask nicely, I'll put you full screen or something, right? We can have some fun. I don't care. Let's see here. Update now. Let's talk, Chuck. Let's talk about that. I need more information as to what you lost. And what I would probably suggest is if you updated your Crow's Nest and you lost it, have you tried restarting Crow's Nest completely and then also restarting your Clipper instance? You could do that just by restarting the whole printer, and then confirm also that all of your other software is up to date. You shouldn't really be losing your cameras if your Crow's Nest is working properly. English, my second language, yes. You hear something funny about English, especially Europeans. Europeans, specifically Germany, Germans speak English. I know it's a Germanic language, but Germans tend to speak English when they learn it well, much better than Americans speak it. And I'm not just talking about slang, I'm just talking about their enunciation of the words and their use of the words. But, you know, I'm no English scholar. Notice the irony of me saying no English scholar on that. But anyways, let's see here. What are you talking about? Polycarbonate carbon fiber ABS for his R8 with stiffening screws, squared up my print nozzle. Very good, stiffer than the R6 that came from my print it forward provider. Bought tap parts from KB3D. KB3D is a great source of parts. Woody, you are the exception. I would say you were absolutely correct in printing that with the polycarbonate carbon fiber. It is much stiffer, a much higher temp plastic than the ABS that people would suggest that you normally print the tap out of. I will say if I was going to print a tap, I probably would also print it out of polycarbonate carbon fiber. And maybe that'll be another test. We'll print one out of, I hate to take this thing off though, I really would. But we'll print one out of polycarbonate carbon fiber and test that compared to the CNC tap. But I gotta tell you, I got no reason to remove it right now. Let's see here. Using your average 5 test tap CNC came out virtual identical. Your average of 5. Chuck, I'm assuming your test. So you tested the same thing, did you? Just to confirm. That'd be cool. Skyrim, hey, how we doing? Nice to see you. I haven't heard much from you. I know you're having some issues. Hopefully you got some of that resolved. I know a couple people tried to give you some information. Hopefully it helped out. It has to do with the version of OS and Pi. It is not compatible with the newer version of Crow's Nest. Some instructions downgrade. Oh, I haven't seen that. Well, let's go over here. As far as I know, my Crow's Nest is up to date. I'm at 4.0.2-2 G8B54. Wow, they come up with some really screwed up revision numbers these days. But anyways, I'm on that version of Crow's Nest, and you can see my Clipper version right here, 0.11.0-221, and Moonraker. So the only 3 things that really should, or maybe 4 if you want to count mainsail in there. Or did you say it was the OS? That could be the OS. My OS is up to date, so I would unless you got a version that's newer than the version I have here with Crow's Nest is 4.0.2-2, I would make sure everything else is updated and try restarting everything, because I'm 100% up to date, and I just did this, I think, I want to say yesterday. Let me hit this real quick just to make sure nothing has happened here. Yes, and we'll wait for paint to dry. Gotta love the paint drying. Paint's drying slow. All right, we'll read what else we got here. Don't take it off. Build another Voron. Yes. Well, we're gonna be rebuilding another Voron. ASA for tap is fine. AR8 is great, especially with the 4 magnets. Got 10K Excel on IS with the 4 magnets. That's good to know. There is an upgrade to the CNC tap to utilize a, I think, what's it called, a G32 magnet? Can't be called a G32 mag, but it probably is, because now I'm thinking of G code, and I get so confused sometimes with some of that stuff because they max. But basically a very, or N32, I think it's an N32. Basically a very, very strong neodymium magnet. Yeah, it looks like there's updates. But my Crow's Nest, there is no updates for, so interesting. But that stuff's right there. You take a look at, see where you're at. We'll talk about that, I guess. Let me get back to this. Yeah, so anyways, there's you can buy a stronger neodymium magnet for the CNC tap, and if you didn't watch that video, go take a look at it. It's a neat thing. One of the best things I like about it that I think kind of missed the boat, and I can't say missed the boat because the other, you know, the original tap, which this is not, and it's way different, uses 2 magnets on the side to hit the heads of screws. And when I was building it, I was thinking to myself, that's not a lot of, you know, a lot of mass, you know, ferrous metal mass for those magnets to attach to. It's just not. So what they did on the CNC tap, if you didn't catch it, if you don't know, is they actually are using the rail on the what was it, the 50 millimeter. They're using an MGN7 on this as opposed to a 9, but the 50 millimeter MGN7 is basically what they're using to attract to the magnet. So there's a lot more metal there to actually hit that. And the fact that they're using an MGN7 as opposed to a 9 also reduces the weight by about 25–30%, which is quite a bit. Now, I was a little reluctant to buy the CNC tap knowing it had an MGM7 because of the fact that usually an MGM7 is known to be pretty sloppy. The preload on those usually isn't pretty high. It's usually relatively low. But these are, I guess, specifically built for this, you know, use. So it seems to be working pretty good. Build it. I use Voron 0, working awesome. Version 0. Huh. Okay, hopefully you're already printing then, Skyrim. Bullseye, mine is Buster. Oh, yes, so you're using Buster as your host OS. Okay, maybe that might be the different. Bullseye tends to be the primary one used, but I could be completely off on that. Chuck, thank you for letting me know. I'm happy that we got similar results, and I'm more than happy for other people to share them too. And actually, that will lead way into something where I'm kind of on the fence about that I said before, and I don't like to put out false statements out there. So we're going to talk about N52. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Nuno. Buster is what's not compatible with newer Crow's Nest. Awesome. So I guess that becomes what we're going to look at is, Chuck, if you're using Buster, same Crow's Nest yours, bullet basement. I'll look at reverting the Crow's Nest. Okay. Yeah, I skipped down because I had to bring that one in. Let's see here. N52 times 4, almost there. David using 4 magnets as well. On par N52 and 1 N32. They are the strongest and most expensive. Well, isn't that always the case? The strongest is the most expensive. All right, so I guess real quick here, we'll take a look at not that camera. We'll take a look at this. Look, it's like I got eyes in the back of my head, right? So this is where we're at. If you haven't caught it, and I know this is kind of getting covered up with text here, but it's Clipper Screen's working on this. We just released a video, or I just released, I'm not a we, I'm an I. Released a video on this the other day. It was a pretty quick video. It didn't have a ton of information on it, but enough information to get you up and running with Clipper Screen if you're thinking about doing it. So next thing I'm doing now, just to give everybody a heads up, you guys kind of get a sneak preview of what I'm going to be doing. And I haven't decided exactly what I'm doing, so I'm going to leave it up to you guys to watch the video. But I just purchased out about 15 meters of addressable LED strips, and these are going to be inside of the extrusions, one on the left, one on the right, and they're either going to be this is what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to basically make this left one based on color is going to be the bed temp. So basically blue being the coolest color, working its way up through green, yellow, orange, red, depending on the temp of the bed. And then as these go up, it will indicate the temperature of the nozzle. So basically it'll be color and height. You know, it's going to basically rise up pretty quick anyways. So then by color, you're going to be able to tell what temperature the bed is. And then on the opposite side over here, it's going to basically be percentage based as to how far along we are with the print. So that's something I got to work out. I've been playing a lot with software to do that. It's more of a software problem than a hardware problem. I'm also trying to source, and once I figure out where to get it, and if I can, I'm going to have to print them. But if I can find someplace that has, and if you guys know someplace that has, extrusion covers, slot covers that are either clear or translucent, I think that'll give it a much more finished look when you put those on. It's going to look nice if we can do that. If I can't, I'm going to have to print them in PETG, which is fine, but it'd be nice to be able to buy it because it's going to look a little bit more factory there. PETG is never going to be translucent and clear all the same way across the whole thing, and I kind of want to make it nice. So yeah. Yeah, so I caught up with you guys. Awesome. Okay, so that was that. That's pretty neat, right? That's coming up soon in videos. I also wanted to talk about my gift that Woody sent me, and I appreciate greatly. And we'll go back to this camera again. I keep picking the wrong camera. This one right here. So Woody knew for a fact I would not build for myself or take the time to build or print the parts for a heat set or heat cert setter. So he printed the parts on his new Voron. That helped him kind of. I think I helped him. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. And sent me the parts in the mail. We won't ask how he got my address or anything like that. Yeah, so he sent it to me, and then I said, you know what would be awesome, Woody? It'd be awesome if there was some type of bucket to hold the heat certs. So you basically have them handy here. And if he gives me his permission, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'll go ahead and get that bucket on my GitHub so people can print it off. It basically fits right in extrusion. But yeah, it's pretty nice. He rounded the bottoms. I mentioned round the bottoms so you could get them out whenever you're on the corner. But I can fit, I told him, you could have made the bucket a little bit smaller, but he kind of chuckled at that. But I would say you probably fit about 300 or so in there, if you really wanted to and if you're really into that type of thing. But this is really nice. I like it. I add that onto there. And the other thing I noticed is that based out of the Adafruit version of this, these wheels were locked in place, which was okay, but there was quite a bit of slop here, and I couldn't get rid of it. So I bought some concentric nuts here to allow me to basically squeeze it together. Those are the same type of part that you would find on a V-slot type rolling printer, like an Ender printer or something like that. So I adjusted those, and that basically got rid of everything. Now I'm nice and solid. I mean, I can pull it because it's made of plastic, but my precision on there should be pretty dang good. So hopefully my builds will just be a little bit quicker and a little bit more precise now when you have that. But I wanted to show that off now that it's all built and I finished it up 100%. And I wanted to thank Woody one more time for that. Yeah, I like that thing. So looks like the chat's kind of stalled. You guys are watching and not talking, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if you do have questions or comments, please do throw them in. We'll pull them in. Like I said, this is a community-driven televised event. So while I'm waiting for you guys to say some stuff, thank you, Woody, again. While I'm waiting for you guys to possibly ask questions or make comments or come up with topics to talk about, because this is your show as much as it is mine, I'm going to move over and actually play a couple of videos I got from a user. I'm going to leave the user nameless. I don't know if they want their name to be out there or not, but I think this is something I'd like to do more often. Again, I mentioned in the beginning, but I really don't want to start bringing people in the show, and at some point I'd like to be able to bring people in live if people are interested in doing that. That being said, if you don't want to share your voice, that's fine. Send a video. It doesn't even have to have audio in it, but you got to make sure you're in the stream to explain what you're doing, or send me a written statement as to what it is. If you want to send me a video, full produced value with your face and everything like that, I'm cool with that too. If you want to send me a video that is kind of voiced over, that's fine too. These are kind of the voiceover type. So without any further ado, let's do this. Let me see if I can get this screen going. Stand by. I need, what do I need? I need that one. Yeah. All right. So you're looking at my printer right now. I'm going to open up my video player and we're going to start this first video. And this is the first time I do this, so hopefully the audio works out okay. But let's watch this first video from...
Hi, Kerm. Darren from Pennsylvania.
Darren from Pennsylvania.
Hey, listen. You don't have to post this or anything.
Yeah, I'm going to post it.
You don't post any of my questions.
Oh, we're going to post them all.
But I have a tip for you regarding Loctite. This is awesome.
Let's see what this tip is.
This tip. If you take...
I think it's a tip on the
tip.
tip.
You might even know this already. But if you take these here applicators, and they come with a bottle of CA glue. And if you just barely cut the tip a little bit, you get them on there really nice. And I'll tell you what. I mean, it's extreme. Beautiful. It doesn't get all over the place. You don't waste it. But that's just a tip. Anyway, hope that helps. Hi, Kerm. Darren from Penn.
All right, so first of all, that does help. That's an awesome tip. Let me actually pick this one back up because we need, I can never get the left and right thing done. I could never do the weather, huh? So that's an awesome tip. Thank you, Darren. And that actually is a lead point into another conversation I alluded to earlier about a little bit of a change of heart. And specifically that has to do with the thread lockers, and I'm still kind of out on it. I'm not 1,000% sold on it, but Robert, a friend of mine and yours, he's been on the streams a few times here, is working out, or has been working out, his own test of thread locker. And let me see if I can bring that up right there. Yeah, let's take a look at this real quick. So he started off, I talked about this briefly before, but he started off with asking about a part that was relatively easy to print quick, where there was a screw that was attached to a nut that would be compressing two pieces of plastic together that were used on the Voron that he could do some testing with, so that he could do this. And he's basically testing ABS, ASA, and maybe polycarbonate, I forget. And he's testing both the stick version and the liquid version of Loctite. And his results have been a little bit different than mine. So this is just showing how much is on there. He basically slathered these parts together. We're talking about probably in magnitude of 20 or 30 times more than you actually need on a part, and then put them together. So, you know, this is an extreme. I mean, he's got it on the outside here. It's everywhere. And what you're seeing there is the Loctite. That's not the plastic at that point. But and you can see here oozing out of it. So this is not how somebody put it together. So I think we got two ends of the spectrum. We had my test I did a while ago where I basically took a part that wasn't under any type of compression, was basically sitting out in open air, and now we got hit in. Basically it was on there as coated, but not, I mean, I didn't throw it in a swimming pool full of stuff. And then we have his here that, you know, basically are inundated with Loctites of different sorts. But his results have been a little bit different than mine, for the worse. And admittedly, they're a little concerning. Again, you know, I don't know how much Loctite people are using on things. I don't think people are using this much Loctite on things, but I think what he's proven here, and I'm more than happy to share it, is that basically if you're using high quantities of Loctite with it, it doesn't dry in a reasonable amount of time and it's all over a piece, that you may possibly get failures on ASA and ABS. This right here is the polycarbonate piece they had, and what you're seeing here is basically nothing happening to that part. You can still see the Loctite all over it, but once he cleaned up that part, this is what this looked like. It was nice and clean, so there was nothing wrong with that once on the polycarbonate. But the ASA and the ABS that he did use, he had a lot of issues with. Again, he completely slathered them with the Loctites, both the liquid and the glue stick type. So I have mixed emotions. I appreciate the testing, I really do. I still stand by what I said, that under normal conditions with normal use, I'm pretty good with Loctite. I'm not going to stop using it. I think the pluses are much more than the minuses. If you're really concerned about it, such as what was shown in that last video that we had from Darren, I would suggest using it sparingly on the threads of the screws you're using. If you want to go even a step further, applying it to the threads, leaving it out for maybe 2 to 4 hours so that it can start to cure a little bit. Don't be worried about it curing. It's fine if it's dried and it's on your threads and you put it in. Some screws come with Loctite pre-applied to them that's completely dried before you put them in. And if you look at the instructions on Loctite, it tells you that you can actually use it multiple times, putting the screw in and out, and it still functions properly. So I wanted to share that. I wanted to put it out there because other people are doing things. And again, it's a community, right? We all try stuff. So if you want to try an experiment like that and let me know how your results are, I'm more than happy to hear about it. So let's see here. What did we miss so far? Oh, Robert's here. Oh, you just on the screen. Let me see. Let me catch up as to where he was. I don't know where I was. Good tip. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, Woody, I'm glad you appreciate that tip. I thought it was good too. Congratulate Darren. Yes. Hopefully he watches this, right? Sorry, I'm missing things today. I was on the road today, checking on via my phone. Robert, no problem at all. I was actually just sharing your information. You can watch this later, and pat on the back for helping out and helping the community in general. I really appreciate, I think we all appreciate you doing those testings. Not really, TBH, I'm happy where they are now, maybe in a new build. Like we're doing, yeah, that's my stream bot. PC carbon fiber, yes, yeah. So that's chemistry for you. I agree, David. And I use a toothpick to put a very small dab inside. The heat inserts doesn't take but a very small amount. I agree with that as well. The other thing you can do is, and sometimes if you watch Loctite videos, is they actually apply it to the as opposed to the screw, but to the nut or to the heat cert, and they do that very sparingly. So the chances of you getting any of that material actually on the perimeter or the outside of it is on the back side of it. Again, do what you think is right. I think there's some cases, if you have screws that are difficult to get to, that you're not readily going to be able to retighten easily, If you do it sparingly and do it carefully, I think you'll be relatively safe. If there are screws that are readily accessible and viable and available to you that maybe don't serve such a huge purpose in the printer, they're more accessory screws, if you will, then yeah, don't put Loctite on them. Don't worry about it. All right, so another video from the same viewer I'm going to throw in here, and I don't know which order to put these in, but we'll go to this one next, and we'll pause it here and get into it. And let's see, we'll start this one up, and here we go.
From Pennsylvania, another question regarding removing and installing the 2240 CAN bus, which eliminates my drag chain. Will that enable me to place my titanium heat spreader, heat break on the top? I noticed in one of your videos you removed it from the top and put it on the back.
Just calling me out.
I didn't catch any videos that explained why. My guess was that it was in the way of the drag chain. Those two words are hard to say.
All the words are hard to say.
I just want to know what you thought about that. Thanks for watching.
No. Thank you for saying the video. So I'll answer that question. There's actually a couple different things come into play there specifically. One is, would it allow you to remove your drag chain or put the titanium on there? The answer is yeah, you could do that. Here's the thing, and it's up for discussion, honestly, is on the original Voron build, there were two MGN9s on the gantry there, one on the front and one on the bottom side, and the mounting point for it basically wrapped around the whole side there. So you had two pieces. Normally, your backers go opposite where your rail is, and I actually had a conversation with somebody on the Voron team about that. It wasn't a voice conversation, it was a typey conversation. But I flat out asked, I said, hey, and let me I'd show with a pad of paper. I said, hey, if I'm getting this right, you guys are suggesting that it goes on the opposite side of where you're putting your rails. But here's the thing, is if your rail is down here, this being your rail, and then you got your extrusion in the middle, and then you have your backer on top. So basically you got a little sandwich, rail, backer, invisible, or my finger right there, and this right here. This is thin. This titanium backer is pretty thin, you know? And yeah, it's strong, but you know, it's thin, okay? Now, if you take that same scenario, and you take the rail, okay, take your extrusion, take your rail, leave that in the same spot, but move this to the front or the back, okay? And now, I can't bend this, you know? I mean, I can bend it this way, but I don't care about that way. It's, you know, this is where the strength is, because those titanium backers are relatively thick. I mean, they're almost as thick as your extrusions. So they're about 20 millimeters, give or take, right? So they're probably, if I had to guess, 18 millimeters to be exact. So 18 millimeters for the width of them is much more than, say, the 3 or so, maybe 3.5 of the thickness of them. And there is an explanation. I'm going to share that explanation. And what the explanation was, and again, it's up for debate with everybody here, but basically it was that I'm thinking about it wrong, which, again, eye of the beholder type of thing, right? It's not this force that they're trying to get rid of. it's the forces of the extrusion when it expands and contracts moving left to right. And what this does is it stops it from moving left to right because it's not going to buckle. On top of that, it stops the extrusion itself from expanding or contracting via the screws that are on it. So there's a lot at play there. I'm still a little bit out on it, to be honest with you. I still think that having backers at a 90-degree from the extrusion would work better. I got to be honest, but I'm not an engineer, or at least I'm not a mechanical engineer. I'm an RF engineer, but I'm not a mechanical engineer. I can wrap my head around it. I don't have the equipment to test it precisely. I don't have the time to test it precisely. So I got to rely on people that do this for a living to some extent. So that being said, when I moved my backer from the 90-degree position, because I had them all at a 90-degree position at one point, but when I moved him from the 90-degree position to the 180-degree position, it was because of the way that it is suggested to do that based on the Voron team. The secondary of that is basically on your printer. Let's zoom in here. Can we zoom in? Look at that heat cert insert. There we go. So on your printer, obviously you can't have it here because you have a drag chain. If you're using a drag chain, it'd be in the way a little bit. I think you can still get it on there, but besides the point, it'd be on top of that. But on your sides here, you can't put it on the inside without a redesign of your gantry parts, and you can't put it on the outside unless you built out your panels on the side. I don't have my panels on here yet. This is kind of a, honestly, at this point, it's kind of a test rig for other things I'm doing as I'm going along. But if you put it on this side, you have to have about an extra 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters or so of space in there so it isn't constantly dragging against your side panel. So they go on top. So on this printer, as they currently stand, they are as suggested, which is basically 180 degrees off from where the rails are, the linear rails. So I'm going to switch over to chat real quick and see if anybody has any comments on that. Let's see here. Yeah, it's supposed to create a metal sandwich. I agree with that. It's supposed to, I agree. Because that's when I've been testing, just not by you. Exactly, it's already been tested, just not by you. May I, that is, if someone else doesn't chime in, I'm a little slow. Steel rails don't expand much. So steel and titanium, I've looked that up. Steel and titanium expand relatively at the same rate. And yes, all metals expand differently at different rates. So I agree with that. But if you live someplace where you get, I'm gonna compute expansion, contraction to frost. But just like frost, and if you live someplace that freezes in the winter, you'll understand this a little bit better. Hopefully I'll get a population that understands this. But if you put something in the ground and it's not below the frost line, and you put it on top of the ground or anything like that, it doesn't matter if it's 5 pounds, 5 ounces, or 50,000 pounds, that force is going to push it. It's going to do it. Expansion and contraction is relatively the same. You can try to withhold it, but it's going to be very difficult to do it. Maybe not to the extent of frost, but it's the same thing. So my thought on it, and by all means, please put some comments in there, Andrew and others. Nobody builds, if you know anything about building a building, you know, nobody stick builds a building like this, because you know, if you build a floor and you put your floor, you know, your joist across like this, it's not going to work. Now you put it like this, you know, that's stronger than hell. It's strong, you know. Like, you know, so to me, it makes sense if you're looking to really confine those pieces from bending, you know, from doing the taco bend. It makes sense to have them in their strongest position, which would be like this against this. Because if this is attached to my hand like this, I'm not going to bend my hand. If it's like this, I can bend my hand all day. You know, I can easily do it. I can show you right here like that. Put it like this, ain't happening. But I'm good either way, because honestly, backers, if there were parts, out of the parts I would say that are very important to a build, backers would not be on the top of that list. They may be somewhere around the middle, honestly. I don't think they're hugely important. So I'm gonna look at the comments real quick, see what we got here, see what you people think. Yep, David, you're right about the steel and titanium. Titanium and steel are about the same. I'm just mentioning about that. Aluminum extrusion and steel wearing span is different rates, creates a twisting, and the gantry backer counteracts that twisting. I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Bimetal spring curve, because on the metal on one side and on the other. Think about interlock driveways. The base is the main reason why we tamp every 3 inches. And so you think I'm right on that? I might be. I don't know. Like I said, you need to be able to measure over long term. It's something to think about. I don't want to get into an argument, because everybody's gonna have different views on this, but at least give it a thought. You know, think about it. The way they're installed, and the way that they're installed specifically on my printer now, which is the correct Voron way, I think is pretty much the best way that you can install them on the printer without dealing with a whole bunch of functionality issues or modifications. So I would put them on this way. But you know what? It's something worth thinking about, at least. See, I think 90-degree position would prevent drooping, but they only reduce the twisting. I agree with that. But, okay, something about that with the twisting. So not only now are you reliant on that titanium stopping from twisting, but you're reliant on the screws being tight enough and holding on to the aluminum and the titanium enough to stop that from happening. So you're not really even 100% reliant on the piece of titanium, but the screws holding the titanium on, which I think would be the weak point. I can't paint pictures with words, my words. Fail me. Oh, come on. Andrew, I get it. I understand what you're saying. And that's the reason why mine are on that way, and it's the reason why I think it's worth talking about. I just happen to have a video comment come in and ask about moving them around, and I wanted to basically, you know, I'm human. I do things differently. I think differently sometimes, as we all do, and that's okay. And I think it's those questions. You know, you've heard the expression, "There's no stupid question." I think not asking a question is sometimes stupid, and I think. For terminology that I think most people understand, being a sheep or a lemming or somebody that doesn't ask questions and just does what they're told, does 2 things. One is it leads to never having anything get better, and you know, I guess worse than that, it doesn't drive us making change or anything like that, but it basically promotes ignorance, because it's hard to remember something that you just don't understand. If you have some idea as to why something's happening, then you have a better idea and you have a better memory of why that's happening, because you can always figure it out. This is one of those things that, you know, I'm doubtful. I think I-beams versus angle iron. I-beams, yes, I would agree. And an I-beam you can run either way. There's a preferred way, because the thicker part being in the middle of the I-beam, but the I-beam is still relatively strong the other way. But if you took an I-beam and just made a sheet of metal, you know, oops, I just agreed. All right, I got one more video coming in here, and we're gonna get that one playing here. Let me get into it. Let's do this.
Hi, Kerm. This is Darren from Pennsylvania, and I have probably maybe a 3-part question.
First of all, Darren, thank you for sending these videos. And again, send me some videos. I like this. By the way, I like Darren's little work area he has there. So if you send me videos, I'm probably going to comment about everything, including the video itself. This one seems to be a little bit blurry, but I think we can all work with it. But I do like this this workbench thing. I am interested in knowing where you got it. I'd like everybody to have a link on it, because I think it facilitates quite a bit there, because I believe it's made of silicone, if I'm not wrong, which means if you leave your soldering iron, you'll be okay. Plus, it's going to be relatively non-prone to stack electricity. And on top of all of that, it's going to hold on to things pretty well. But anyways, that's just me looking at something, right?
The first part is this. Do you recommend somebody modding the Voron printer right off the bat, or recommend building it as to their kit or recommendations and then upgrading afterwards?
All right, I'm gonna stop that right there because that is an awesome question, and I think people probably have different opinions on this one too, but I'm going to give you my opinion, and I'm pretty strong on this opinion, and I will explain why. And you guys, I think everybody kind of would feel the same way, but I'll explain my opinion as to what it is. To answer that question, I would suggest that if you're building a Voron printer, you do not build a modified Voron printer if it is your first Voron printer you're printing. I'll go one step beyond that. I'm not a huge fan, because this was an LDO kit. LDO did a great job getting the pieces and parts together. That makes it way more accessible for way more people. I am not a huge fan of the modifications that LDO made to, in their minds, maybe make things a little bit easier. In my mind, maybe to make things a little bit cheaper for them. I would say, in my perfect world, if I was going to send somebody to build a Voron kit and they called me up on the phone and they sent me a message, anything like that, my advice would be to seek out a Voron kit if you want to buy a kit, not self-source everything, but find a kit that does not have modifications from the manufacturer of that kit. In other words, it uses the normal BOM for that unit that you're building, whether it be a 2.4, a Trident, whatever you have, a V0, whatever it is. I would find a kit, or at least try to find a kit that has a part for part to that BOM. I would find a kit that included at least 10 to 20% additional parts when it comes to screws, nuts, inserts, things like that. I would tell you to try to print your own parts. I mean, really try hard. Try hard to print your own parts, because you'll learn a lot trying to do that. If you find you can't print your own parts, use Print It Forward, or purchase parts if you have to, or have a friend print parts for you. As soon as you got that Voron printer put together, I would say at that point, before you even make any modifications of that, do your tuning, get it up and running well, and print yourself any of the mechanical parts or parts connected to mechanical things. I would reprint them as basically not only test prints, but as backup parts for your printer, because eventually you're going to need something. And if it's your only printer, or if it's your only printer that will print ABS, it's going to be dead in the water until you can replace those parts. So I would sole source only. I probably wouldn't sole source or self source my first printer. It's a lot of work. It's going to be probably, no joke, 30% of the work of building a printer would be sourcing all the parts yourself and getting them and organizing them and making sure they're all proper. So I would, I've said this before, and this is not, this part of what I'm just about to say is probably not going to come up with thumbs up and stuff like that, but I will tell you that the LDO kit was a very good kit. It worked very well. I do have some qualms about it. If you guys want to know what those are, by all means ask me, I'll tell you. I also built a FormBot kit, and I will say the parts were of higher quality on the LDO kit, but I don't really appreciate the changes that they made to the original BOM and to the assembly of the printer. The FormBot kit, the parts were cheaper, but they stuck to the BOM almost screw per screw. There was no modifications, there was no additional anything in there. I'm not a big fan for a first-time builder to deal with umbilical cords, or to deal with wiring harnesses or breakout boards and things like that. The original printer doesn't have them. I think A, you learn how to pin connectors and how to hook things up. I think B, you have troubleshooting of an end-to-end wire that you don't have to go through a circuit board to figure out how it's working. I think a lot of people that are building Voron printers don't know a lot about electronics in general, but they really want to get into it. So that's my answer to that question. I'm going to check these comments real quick to see what you guys say. Let's see here. Oops, agreed. Yep. Let's see. My Physik Trident came with a BOM Omron inductive probe and clicky kit as well, for those who want to use it. Yes. So man, there's always so much to talk about. I was expecting this to be like a 20-minute stream. What are we at, like 1 hour? The inductive probes, and I think I have one somewhere's here. I have gathered a lot of parts. I have no problem with inductive probes. And for people that are new that don't necessarily know what that is, that's this guy right here. It's a little box looking thing. And it detects ferrous metal for the most part. It will detect other things as well, other metals, magnets, things like that. But basically it's a probe to tell the printer how far on the Z it is. I don't have any problems with the inductive probe. The biggest issues with the inductive probes usually came from people building their printer and putting their hot end in backwards, or actually forwards in some instances, like on the Slice Mosquito, and it melts the inductive probe. But if you're careful, you're not going to do that. So inductive probe's good. Clicky is actually a good thing to do too. I've never built a printer with Clicky, but the results seem to be pretty good. That still is. It's a user developed, just like this community channel, right? It's a community driven, user developed part. The only thing I think gets confusing with that, and I wouldn't do it on the first build, is the fact that now you're dealing with macros specifically to dock and undock and get that and do things with. That makes things a little bit more complicated. But yeah, and then Clicky as well, the one is. So the LDO kit also came with Clicky parts. It did not come with tap parts because tap parts were too new when they came out, but it also came with the inductive probe. I knew I was going to do a tap on this one. My other printer has an inductive probe on it and it works just fine. Let's see here. So the point is build it as stock as possible, then mod. Yes. Jose, thank you. Yes, unless you want to, let's equate it to a puzzle. If you're a type person that builds a puzzle and has a picture in front of you while you're building the puzzle, that's your bomb. That's your puzzle pieces. You know where they go. You got everything. It lines up in line with stuff. If you're the type of person that likes to do puzzles but not have any idea what the puzzle is going to be in the end, yeah, then basically mod it out. Do whatever you want right from the get-go, but be prepared for that. I don't know. Let's see. I didn't know about that, so I bought the Uslit Pro while I was waiting for the kit. Yeah, that's fine. I self-sourced my first Voron. It wasn't easy, but dang, it was fun. But I'm a bit crazy, else I wouldn't be building printers. Yeah, maybe we're all a little wackadoo out there, right? Again, self-sourcing is awesome. It allows you to get the extra parts you want. I have so many parts here, and I've done a tour here in some streams, but it seems like every few weeks or so, everybody joins or somebody new joins, and there's a group that there's been enough new people to kind of shut it off. So maybe in the next stream or two, if you guys are looking for it, I'll give you another tour of all the parts I keep here. Maybe go a little bit into why. Let's see here. I think some of the mods should be made standard, such as Rama idlers, I guess bearings and Z-joints, tongue belt. So I don't know what the process is for mods to get added into the Voron, but I can tell you that they're always almost any mod that's getting traction, somebody on the Voron team is probably playing with it, working with it, whatever, and it may get worked into a revision. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that, actually the MGN 12 mod, I don't recall, I think that was a community mod that was adopted, going from the double nines to the 12, because basically it went from double nines to a single 9, and then to the 12, and I think that might have been driven by community, but stuff like that does work. I mean, it gets through over time. I built everything stop except for the V2 0.4 GE5C. Tap should also be made standard. I don't know. I'm not 100% on that. Not the I guess, yes. And Clicky Probe. Clicky Probe made standard. So, you know, it's like chocolate versus vanilla. I think that's universal in all languages and in all countries. You got people like chocolate, you got people like vanilla, and people like both. I think everybody kind of likes both. And I think the way it is with the Clicky Probe, the inductive probe, and the tap probe, I mean, they all got benefits and negatives. The inductive probe is very easy to install, use, and work with, just because of what it is. It's just a probe. You know, if installed, if the software is done properly, your probe shouldn't really be able to hit your bed when you're doing your first test. The tap probe is another layer of security, I think, in terms of, I gotta take a drink, some lemonade here. in terms of stopping you from basically having issues with your printer hitting a bed, you can make it so when your tap is enabled, that basically, you know, if it happens during a print, it would stop the printer. I think having your testing point, this is now I'm going to my opinion, I think having your testing point at your nozzle for basically adjusting your nozzle is the best that you're ever going to come up with in terms of precision. I think of it kind of like a ladder with rungs. You know, every rung has, we'll say, a failure point. So if you have a ladder with 10 rungs on it, and every rung has a little bit of a notch in it or a little cut in it, everyone is able to fail at an amount. But as soon as one of them does fail, you're going to break all the way down through the whole thing. So I think your failure points are much lower with a probe that's, you know, like the tap probe. I think there's a lot of failure points with a clicky, just because of the macros you got to run and everything like that. But after you get rid of the macros and the docking, the undocking, the actual clicky itself is almost identical to the tap probe in terms of what it is once you set your Z offset and things like that. So, and be done talking about that one. Let's see here. Let's see. I agree with what I've seen so far, Woody. I hope tap becomes standard. It might be. I like it obviously as well. A 5-volt power supply, also powering off Pi. Let's see, 5-volt power also versus Pi. So the 5-volt power supply is, or at least was, I'm not going to double check right now, but originally it was always a 5-volt power supply in there along with the 24-volt. This powering your Pi off of the MCU became an after thing, I think a selling thing. MCUs tend to have 5 volts and 3.3 volts already on them. They said, what if we beef up this chip with, as opposed to the 1 penny, the 3 penny chip? Can we make back that money by selling more of these boards by saying it will do this, that, and the other thing? And the answer is yes, so that's why they do that. Your multicolored or addressable LEDs, such as this, tend to be 5 volts. So if you're going to do a bunch of fun stuff with LEDs on your printer, you're probably going to be looking for a 5-volt source, which would be another reason to definitely use an external 5-volt power supply inside your printer. So let's see here. Totally accurate probe equals tap. I agree. Self-sourcing for me helped know exactly where I was cheaped out. So problems I knew exactly where for. That's not the point, Andrew. The point is when you self-source is you get the best parts you can afford. And hopefully you don't cheap out. You wait another week until you can afford the better parts. But I understand what you're saying. It's a good one. Annex engineering like panel clips are definitely standard. No hardware needed whatsoever. Very fast, easy to install, remove. Again, these are parts that people find that like. I have clips on the back of mine. Standard is basically the screw downs. I have the screw down type on the top, the standard Voron, because I don't really take off top panels much. However, my left and right, my back panels are all clipped on, so basically I can remove them quickly. Those are minor things, maybe. My first Voron 2.4 R2 was it an R2 from Vorbot? Followed by a Voron build. The first build was with Stealth Burner, Clockwork 2, and Tap. The big mod was to use 2-part PCB in the Stealth Burner. That is a pretty decent mod. Requires some 2-part PCB is right on Chuck. Yes, Pfizer recommends powering the Pi with MCU, but it also includes. All right, I have no idea why Pfizer would recommend powering the Pi with the MCU, unless they were claiming that the power from the MCU is cleaner than that from a power supply. But if you're using a Meanwell power supply, I mean, I'm not going to flip the printer over right now. This isn't the time or place for it. No, it's a place for it, not time. But you know, you're dealing with a power supply that's, you know, about that big and about maybe you know, what, 4 centimeters tall or 1.5 inches tall. and it's packed with electronics, capacitors, smoothing out things, you know, probably a bridge refractor in there, some other things in it to basically make sure the power is good and clean, along with adjustable voltage on it. I am hard pressed to believe that something of this size with all those components in there has been reduced to a very small portion, about yay size, on an MCU, and have you get the same performance. So I agree with the 5-volt power supply. I would consider that to be a very important part. Let's see here. Definitely not fun to unscrew the stock panel clips, in my opinion. Of course, I agree. It's not fun to do it, but top not coming off. See, have you printed anything on your if I told you yes, I would be telling the truth, but I'm kind of acting like I have not. So but I'm not going to lie. Yes, I've done some test printing on it. I don't necessarily share exactly where the printer is, because I'm trying to keep everything in line. It does get difficult sometimes to keep everything in line, in all honesty. I've printed off my friend from the first layer, Rich, has a beaver he likes to print. He sent me a file of it, and it might be around here somewhere. Actually, my daughter didn't take it. I think she did, but I actually printed that off maybe about a month ago. So I've done a little minor printing with it just to see how things work and just to figure stuff out. I will tell you, I have not done a full up tuning of the whole printer. I've done some tuning to see how things turn out, to compare them. A lot of the work, differently than somebody just building a printer for fun, when you're building it for people on YouTube or any way you're building for instruction, you wind up doing things more than once. If it's something that is physical in the printer, I like to do it live, first time, first shown, so any issues I run into aren't hidden, so you guys see them. When it comes to software, it becomes very tedious for somebody to watch software happen, with, you know, sometimes doing a little bit of troubleshooting and problem solving while it's happening. So a lot of times I will do that more than once to kind of go through things and see what's happening, and then mention if there's something like a gotcha, which I do a lot of times, which I don't have a big gotcha for today, but we have these videos here to help out with that. So I have printed something with a printer, yes. They recommend it because they also recommend connecting the MCU and Pi via UART. Okay, yep. So my Pi, you know, I think my Pi on the other printer is connected via UART. You could do that. There's no benefit, really. It's cool to use the header pins on the Pi, maybe. Separate 5-volt power supply also gives you some power for your, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. These guys are relatively power hungry. This strip right here, if I want to power up the whole strip, which is 16.4 feet, so what's that? Probably about 3.5 meters. Will take up to 90 watts of power, which even the 5-volt power supply that's in there will not do. That will do 20 or 25 watts, but I'm not putting, you know, that much LED lights on it. I don't need to light the house with it. So let's get back in the video and see what the second question is.
I am choosing to upgrade it as I build it, which might be more difficult for me. I'm not sure. But this is my question. This is the stock board that comes with the stealth burner. Hark or something like that.
Parquet.
I don't know what it is.
Like parquet.
And so this is going to require the
Anybody remember
the black
parquet?
cable, the drag chain, and whatever, another little board that is mounted underneath in the electronics.
This is an LDO kit, I can tell.
Now, if I were to switch that out, this here board out, with the 2240 CAN bus board, that is I would be eliminating the drag chain, and I would have an umbilical. Is that correct? Now, back to the point of modding a printer right from the start, is installing this here board making my life more difficult? I am regretting working on the software end. But I'm sure once I watch a lot of videos and get a better grasp of it, I'll be okay. But right now, it makes me really nervous that I'm making these upgrades. I also am using the tap, and I have the Mandela heat bed. I'm basically building one just like you, except for I was thinking about upgrading to this. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts.
All right. I think that was only one other question. So this first question is kind of a lead-in, I guess, to the second question, because it's the same answer. So yes, adding a CAN bus to the printer is going to remove a lot of wiring. Now, that being said, you actually have a couple different options when you're doing that. I'm sure there's quite a few people probably watching us that use CAN bus. I did not use CAN bus on this printer. I have my reasons. But you don't have to go to an umbilical setup when you're using a CAN bus. You could still keep a drag chain if you chose to. Is there a reason to? That's arguable. Is there a benefit to not having a drag chain? Again, I think that's arguable. It adds additional weight, it adds additional parts that are moving around, wear parts to your printer, things like that. It does keep your wiring relatively neat and clean. It does a lot for you, especially if you have some things that don't necessarily or won't necessarily connect to your CAN bus for whatever reason that might be. Building the printer with the Harkey breakout board that LDO provides is just fine. You will find that you need to make some modifications to get 5 volts to, or unless you have a board that will do the 5/24. You will have to make some modifications to that board if you want to jump over the 5, but if you have a board that will do both, you'll be fine with that. I think if you go back in my videos, I have some modifications of that. And the Voron Discord actually has a lot of talk about that. Eliminating the drag chain and going with a CAN bus setup, you basically, at the very least, are going to have your power wire, your ground wire, and then your CAN bus wires. So basically, you're down to roughly 4 wires, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it specifically. That's a lot fewer wires than the rough 20 or so wires you need normally on the printer. Here's my issue. And I say this with the most love in the world for Big Tree Tech. Big Tree Tech actually is possibly, quite possibly, probably providing me with a lot of parts for the rebuild of my other 2.4 coming up here later this summer. But I will say this. I will say that when you're building a printer, especially for the first time, having those, and I said before already in the video, but when having those individual wires allow you to basically test end-to-end connections and connect your connectors directly to where they go on the MCU without using a breakout board where you can't necessarily tell where something's coming in and going out because you're using a multi-pin connector. CAN bus is much the same thing. The only difference between CAN bus is the quantity of wires actually going to your tool head. You're still dealing with a breakout board that basically is combining all your connections into into the CAN bus, encoding it, and then sending that encoded data over to the tool head where it's getting broken back out, and then running, you know, your stepper drivers, your LED lighting, your extruder, all that stuff gets broken back out. So to think of it in simple terms, you're compressing all the data from those multiple wires into, 2 wires, and then shooting that over those 2 wires to be broken back out. Obviously, having fewer wires or fewer points of failure, so that's a big plus. But if I was building a printer for the first time doing via CAN bus, I would set up my CAN bus on my desk or my workspace before I move too far. It might require you also to have your thermistor and your hot end and other things plugged into it, but I would want to make sure that I have my firmware, my software running properly for the CAN bus before I moved any further, because you're not going to know. Well, you'll figure it out, but you're always going to figure it out. But you're going to have more difficulty realizing if your issue is firmware from your MCU, firmware for your CAN bus, software from Clipper, software on your CAN bus or MCU, and then you just have a lot more variables that you have to work through to find out what the problem might be. So all that being said, I think CAN bus is a very, very nice development. I think it's a very helpful thing. I think when you build a printer, if you utilize CAN bus, you'd really reduce your failure points in the long run. I also think that some people do it because they feel that they're going to be able to, step aside or jump over or leapfrog over a bunch of the process to build a printer and be able to do it quicker, which I assure you that unless you're very, very lucky, isn't going to happen. You're still going to be crimping wires. You're still going to have to be tracing down things. You're still going to need the proper I/O information from your MCU, your controller board, to that CAN bus. And you're probably not going to find as much documentation as you are if you do it wire to wire, end to end. And that's actually like a big thing. Anything that comes out new for a printer, and when I say new, new could be 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years. But the newer something is, the less information there is, because you're more apt to find a problem that someone else hasn't run into. So I think when you're building a printer for the first time, especially, sticking with something that's been around for a while, that is very popular, is probably where you're going to do it. CAN bus has now started to reach that point where it's become so popular that probably, if I had to make a guess, 75 to 80% of all printers or Voron printers that are being built probably have CAN bus. So I think it's a little bit safer now. But yes, long and short of the whole thing, you're going to eliminate a lot of wiring. All right. Let's see here. Oh boy. My vote on the CAN bus is that you're making more trouble for you. Yes, I would agree with that. How hard is it doing CAN bus, Chuck? From Woody. I don't think it's difficult, Woody. I don't think the difficulty is there. I think it's the difficulty in going from a not working printer to adding something that includes additional variables. I mean, solving for X is easy when all you have is an X, but you throw a bunch of other things in there and it becomes alphabet soup. I'm having a problem with my Orange Pi. It's a Bigtree Tech HTML5, doesn't have main CLRs. Let's see. I am having a problem with my Orange Pi. And Bigtree Tech HTML5 doesn't work. Main CLRs. Is there a way to fix that? So, Dark Zorro, just to throw it out there, just to see if I'm reading that right, you're having an issue with your HDMI 5 board, your Bigtree Tech HDMI 5 board, which should be connected via your Orange Pi via HDMI. My first question is, are you using Clipper screen, and what are you seeing on that screen right now? I'm guessing you're probably seeing nothing. I'd confirm you have power to that board, to that screen. Confirm you have good HDMI connection to that screen, and then you're probably going to have to install a Clipper screen if you plan on using that screen with your printer. It's not the same as hooking up a monitor to a computer. Clipper, in its normal way, is just going to basically have a web GUI that you're going to use. You're going to need Clipper screen if you're going to hook up a screen to that Pi, whether it be an Orange Pi or a Raspberry Pi. That'll be your first hurdle. Let's see, Nuno. I have an EBB36 on my Trident connected via USB. Have it like this for 2 months now, no issues. Yep, I think once you get working, you shouldn't have issues. Less failure points, like I said. I like my drag chain. I'm not ready for CAN bus. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. I mean, they're tried and sure with this. Plenty of printers have been out there for, probably a decade that have had drag chains on them. Yeah. I think if it has a CNC machine, that's 100% true. You're going to find drag chains on a lot of CNC machines. Andrew, a lot of modern vehicles use CAN bus for headlights, taillights, intelligent parts of simple wire. Yes. So I'll talk about that for a second. I've talked about it before. CAN bus is used a lot in the automotive industry to reduce cost, and that's the big thing. So here's my point of view, my original point of view of CAN bus, and again, it's over time being swayed because more people are using it. There's more information about it. It's being more testing in it, so it becomes more of a reasonable solution. CAN bus is useful to reduce the amount of wiring that you have over lengths. So if you had a print farm and you know, all that wiring from everything was going back to a central spot. CAN bus would be very useful because one, you could basically run multiple printers off the same CAN bus, but two, you reduce the amount of wiring you have, which reduces your failure points and the cost to actually do them. In a vehicle, you know, old school wiring harness, but part of what I do for work, or part of what I see for work, I don't really do, honestly, is we do work with vehicle wiring. Wiring harnesses in vehicles, if you go back even, 10, 12 years, it would be not abnormal to see, you know, a large harness running down the center of the vehicle, as well as running up the sideboards of the vehicle with wiring going to the trunk and area and coming back up to the vehicle. That's slowly gotten reduced, and now there's a lot of CAN bus inside of a vehicle. That enables them to build a car quicker, basically get more in kind of you know, the turn by wire, whether it be fly by wire or steer or anything like that, do everything by wire, which reduces the amount of break points, but also makes troubleshooting a little bit easier if you're a trained technician to be able to read that vehicle, as opposed to looking for a broken wire between, you know, somewheres in the 3,000 feet of wire that are inside the chassis of the car. CAN bus is also widely used in mechanical spaces. It's usually used to connect machines to other machines. We use CAN bus to serial adapters for some things. We've used CAN bus to Ethernet adapters to basically do you can actually take CAN bus if you wanted to, and you can go search this, Google it up. You can buy an adapter that will take CAN bus and basically give you an IP address and Ethernet, and you could basically connect things over the internet if you wanted to, as long as you had some type of, you know, VPN tunnel or something like that, so you could talk to it. So if you wanted to CAN bus a printer, you could build a physical printer in one location, use a CAN bus with a CAN bus adapter, and have your power at the printer, and actually run an MCU in another state if you really wanted to. I would not suggest doing it. There's probably going to be some time issues and things like that, but you could if you wanted to. CAN bus is used a lot in other places though. A lot more, yeah. My almost got you. Modding the tongue clips. Yes, you mentioned that, Woody. Thank you. You said it in a somewheres. Watch screwing near the right rear. You can catch the wire below the screw. Ask me how I know. Oh, yeah. Yep. So what he's talking about, the wires around that coming through the drag chain, going through the angle thingamabobber. Where's my camera? Let's see here. Woody is talking about back here, and how the mount for the Z belt is underneath the wiring, and a quick slip could probably damage a wire right back there. Hopefully damage and not sever, right? Yep. Tongue clip, what are those? Man, I gotta go back to that. Tongue clip. Oh. It's what you, let me see if I can, where are we? Is that gonna work? No. So, I don't know if everybody calls them tongue clips, but I think it's a good name for them. Actually, let me just do this. I'm not a big fan of that, but let me bring this down. And focus. You're too close. There we go. This right here is what we're referring to as a tongue clip. So it holds your Z belt. The standard Voron part basically has this coming straight out here, which sometimes becomes wipage on your side panels. What these allow you to do is basically take it, come down around and go back out. The reason we call them tongue clips is because, like the idlers above them, which is out of frame, you got little eyebrows on them. So basically you got an eye, and then the tongue sticking out of it like this. Blah, 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 blah. So that's why we call them tongue clips. Let's see here. Oh, I see. Thanks. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right. What else was there I wanted to talk about? We did that, Woody. We talked about the LEDs. We've talked a lot. We've done the videos. What are you guys up to? Is there anything you guys want to talk about? Any other questions we got today? Any other things that need fixing? How about that? More than willing to help out. At some point, I'm gonna learn CAD a little bit better, a little bit more. Not even better. I barely can work my way through it, but I found quite a few places in the past, 3 or so years I've been doing this, playing with printers, 3.5. I've been playing with printers. That it would be really helpful if I could do it, but I just can't find the time to teach myself some CAD. Yeah, so, Woody's got a question. Slight elephant foot, what are the fixes? Well, there are 2 fixes that come straight off to mind for elephant foot. One of them is real easy to do as the printer. The other one is easy to do as the developer. And since I know, Woody, you design some of your own parts, what I will tell you is in CAD, if you're developing a part, if you're designing a part in CAD, one of the best things you can do to help alleviate a part being printed with elephant foot is putting a small chamfer on the bottom section of whatever it is that the build surface is that the parts can be printed on. It will help so you can still get the mush on the printer, but not have the elephant foot come off of that. That's from a design perspective. From a print perspective, it's twofold, and they're both pretty obvious to point out. One is, you're probably printing a little bit too close for your first layer. We're all trying to get a good amount of squish on that, but you're at the point where your fine tuning is basically coming up just a little bit so you don't get so much mush on it, because that's all that really is on the elephant foot, is a little bit too much mush. If I was working on trying to print the perfect part and I had a little bit of elephant foot, I would probably increase my Z slightly. And when I say very slightly, probably probably, I don't know. I'm trying to think here, probably 0.005 or so. That'd be my first try, and then after that, what I would probably suggest doing is slightly adjusting temperatures. If you're printing with a heated bed, if you're printing, say, PLA at 65 on your bed, which is pretty warm, I would reduce it down to 40 or so. If you're printing at 40 on your bed, try reducing it down to 20. Anything you can do to help solidify that plastic on the bottom quicker, and maybe even printing your first layer a little bit colder, which is counter to what a lot of people will tell you. But like if you're printing PLA and you're printing it, I'm using PLA because it's most used, but if you're printing PLA and you can only print it at, say, 215 Celsius, do your first layer at 210 or 212. So those are a couple things I would try. Are you a Windows or a Mac user? I'm a Mac user, and I found Sharper 3D a little easier in Fusion, but it's preference. Yes, I agree, it's preference. For the most part, I'm a Windows user. I grew up using Windows. Actually, my first computer was a Commodore 64. Then I had Amiga, so I guess I can't say I grew up with Windows, but Windows grew up with me. How about that? I remember Windows 3.1, then 3.11s when they added work groups. So I've always been Windows. I think Mac is fine. I have no problems with Mac for the most part. I don't like troubleshooting Macs because I don't know. I'm just asinine when it comes to it, because Mac shouldn't have problems, especially for the price you pay for a Mac. But yeah, I just need to take some time and work with some CAD. Elephant foot compensation and slicer. I've never seen such a thing. I'm sure some slicers probably do have that, though. Kara's saying too, horizontal expansion, I think. Yes. I believe they do have horizontal expansion, but you just want that on the first layer or two, or maybe 3. I've been using Fusion 360 now for 2 years. Slow learner, but it's great. Create your own parts and mod a part. Fusion 360 is what I play with. I do it more to look at parts than anything else. I haven't done much modding or anything like that. Super Slicer, if anybody knows if elephant foot reductions in Super Slicer, that'd be good. I don't know. David, does Super Solution have help? Yeah, let's go. Looks at you suspicious eye. How old are you? My first computer was a TRS-80. Oh, a Tandy. I think we're probably about the same age. My cousin had a TRS-80. We used to play a game called Dallas Quest on that, so it's pretty fitting because I think you said you were in Texas, right? I am 44, 45 in August, so when we do a stream in August, you guys can wish me a happy birthday. But yeah, do I look 44? I don't know. You tell me. Mine was an MSI 8080. Oh, so using an 8080 chip, which is the same as the TRS-80. Yuppers, I'm 45 in February. See, told you about the same age. My first computer was a slide rule. Woody, I thought your first computer was 2 granite sticks, or two granite rocks and a stick. Anyways, yep. I've been around computers quite a long time. Yeah, the Tandys were nice units for the day, right? I actually loved my Amiga. I wanted a computer. I got an Amiga. And it always, for lack of better words, sucks to be on the losing end of something like the whole Commodore thing. But you know what? I've been using Windows for a long time. I've used Mac here and there. My wife's a school teacher and she has a Mac. She knows the rule that if she comes asking for help with a Mac issue, that I'm probably going to shun her. But sometimes I do help. Let's see here. Okay, so there you go. First day of compensation. See, we're all helping each other out. Yeah, so about an hour and a half into this one, which is about my standard spiel and run. So unless you guys have much more to talk about, I'm probably going to button this one up pretty soon. I do want to thank everybody for coming. I appreciate spending this time with you guys. Hopefully you guys have fun when we do this. I don't get a lot of building done in these streams, so if you're a first time or just catching in, wondering when the heck I'm going to build something, do check out the build videos. I feel that doing these types of streams for community-based interaction is great. We can have kind of our little side talks. Again, if you want to send in a video, you can send it to me via email, find a way to do it. There's tons of different ways you can do it nowadays, but my email's in my page on YouTube here. I think it's in most of my comment section, not my comment section, but my description sections as well. But if you want me to say it, it's Kerm, K-E-R-M, at builditbasement.com. Love to get some more interaction, some more videos. If I had some videos every time I did a stream, it would be great for all of us, because chances are if you have a question about something, it would be something somebody else has a question about. To that same token, having a video of it makes it a little bit easier for me to kind of show and do a show and tell. I like to see people's workspaces as well. Plus, sometimes, you know what, a picture or a video are worth a billion words, because, you know, you take 30 frames a second, multiply it out. Yeah. Let's see here. Greatest chat everyone. Be like, great, lots of, yep. Thanks, fun. Oh, yeah, awesome. All right, so you guys are all saying thank you and welcomes, and I you know, in return, I thank you as well. I do this as much for me as I do for you, admittedly. I want everybody to be happy and get along and have things at work, and basically get some fulfillment out of what they're doing. I think it's more important than anything else that you like what you're doing. If you're frustrated with something, set it aside for a day or an hour, come back to it. If I have a video that helps out, great, let me know. You know, I appreciate everybody with that. If I don't have a video or don't have any, you know, if nobody has something out there that would help you with something, if you run into a problem that you can't find a solution to, email me, send me a message. The Discord's down below. Send me a message on Discord. Send me a message on chat. Anything you can do, I will try to help out. Anybody that's on the stream that sends me, or actually anybody that sends me messages, I'll just tell you, I usually respond to messages on my comments on my YouTube videos. Sometimes within minutes. I think Mark sent me one earlier today, and it said 0 minutes when I responded to it. I just happened to be near the computer. But you send me something, I usually respond within the hour for most times, unless I'm sleeping, and then usually it's within a couple hours when I'm awake. So I'm not dead ears. I'm not here just for me. I'm here for you guys. So look through the commentary one last time. Everybody's saying hello, goodbye, all those things. Robert's telling us about, Robert's back in, I guess. Let's see here. I'm here right at the end. Just if I plan to test Loctite under properly applied conditions soon. Were you playing catch up? And talk about the 242, 243. One's oil resistant, supposedly no solvent. I like to find out if they're using acetone as a solvent or something different. But that's something for another day, right? Heading for my next mod, tongue clips. That's a good mod to do. Literally print them off, probably all the ones you need in about 15 minutes, if that. Yeah. Let's see. Yes, you're very fast on comments. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Woody from Jose. And yeah, so let me run down through real quick. Thank you, everybody. Jose, Andrew, first time around. Glad to have you. Hopefully you check out some of the other videos. You leave some comments, and we talk soon. Mark Davis, long-time watcher. Mark Davis, also subscriber. I don't mention that very often, but that does help. Helps me get parts and show more stuff off. Woody, I've been helping him since the get-go of his printer. He blasted past me and has been printing stuff now for a while. Jose, you've been around for a while too. You're my friend. You guys are all my friends. Chuck, same with you. Robert, I've been having fun with you. Bob, first time you're commenting on the stream, but I've seen you around and I appreciate you stopping in. Who else is on here? Doesn't matter. Appreciate everybody. I'm gonna end off the stream, and by all means, I'll probably shoot over to Discord for a little bit. So if you're still here and you want to do that, that's great. If not, then I'll see you next time. If you do go to Discord, I'm not going to be there for a long time, probably like 10-15 minutes. So hopefully we don't get into too much. I've gone in there before, and people want to talk for hours on end. I've been talking for an hour and a half already. So I'll see you next time.